on silent, please. Jude. And so from the Hive here at Ashesi University in Brekusu, this is the Ashesi Citi Dialogue 2.0.
Ghana's constitution is 30 years old, and that's the longest lasting
Thank you very much.
of states that
we welcome our audience
today.
here at Ashesi University
and
our viewers from all over the world to Channel 1 Television to a very important conversation.
Every other generation of academics has taught a constitution that's different from what they studied.
The Ashesi Citi Dialogue started 10 years ago,
has lived under
a
military
conversation
rule.
that dealt with critical
There's
national issues.
less of an
Ahead of a
understanding
crucial
of
election,
what
we're back
the opposite
to examine
of
4 critical
constitutional
issues
state is.
on
And
scholarship,
therefore, we must
citizenship,
now
leadership,
intentionally
and
teach
nation
our
building.
lawyers.
My name is Bernard
to
Avile. I'm the moderator for today's
protect it,
program.
to think
We're going to have
through it,
a
to
very
look into
exciting time in 3 quarters. In our first quarter, I would interact with the founder of Ashesi University, who's also the president, on the journey so far and why these 4 themes are critical for where the future of the nation is going. We'll also have a panel of interesting people to discuss these 4 themes and open the floor to our audience, who are quite a nice, motley crowd. They seem very happy, and therefore they are applauding one more time. If you're watching us online, contribute to the conversation on the chat beneath. We're happy to hear from you as well. So we start off with a quick conversation with the founder and president of Ashesi University, Patrick Awuah, whose life epitomizes some of the values we'll be discussing today. Let's receive Patrick with a round of applause.
Bernard, welcome.
Thank you very much. Which is odd because I'm on your campus and I'm welcoming you to the set. How does that work?
Well, welcome to our campus.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here.
The place has changed. 10 years ago, this building wasn't here. And
That's correct.
I could, as they say in Ghana, I could urinate around the university. It will take me a lot more water to do this. Just talk to me a bit about what's happening here briefly, how the place is looking.
Well, we're very busy. We're very, very busy. 2 years ago, we turned 20 years old, and we announced a new strategic plan for the university. And we've been executing that plan very, very intensely. If you come back 2-3 years from now, you will find that this campus has grown a lot more. Our floor space is going to double from what it was 2 years ago to what it's going to be 3 years from now. Wow. So just to give you a sense of the growth. And in that plan, we sort of organized our thoughts around the answer to a simple question. What do we think the world is going to look like 30 years from now? What do we think Africa and Ghana are going to look like 30 years from now? And what do we need to be doing today to be useful and relevant to that world? And the answers to that question were really around the big waves that we see in the world. So the 6 big things that are guiding our work are the population growth happening in Africa. The population is going to double from what it was 2 years ago. Climate change, the need to strengthen health systems on the continent, especially as we're growing. The 4th industrial revolution, technologies, AI, synthetic biology, additive manufacturing. The Continental Free Trade Agreement, which promises to create a major market in the world on the African continent. And finally, the need for Africa to become the next manufacturing center in the world. So these 6 things have shaped our thinking of what we're going to do for Ashesi's 3rd decade. And it's a long list of things that we're doing, but they're all organized around these 6 things. And we've been very, very busy executing on those.
Wonderful. So I noticed the 6 things, and I'll feed off of them in the panel. But I also see growth in other areas. So physically, I see growth.
Right.
But also people-wise.
Right.
I see more people. Your numbers 10 years ago, nowhere near what they are today. How have you grown numerically?
Correct. So the student population is now 1,500. By 2032, it'll be closer to 3,000. We just got accreditation for a number of programs. We've done master's programs now in engineering, in artificial intelligence, and intelligent computing systems, an MBA. And then on the undergrad, we're doing more engineering, but importantly, we're doing majors in economics, law, and public policy. And so we're now engaged in educating people who are going to be engaged in the policy space in our country. Now, as you can imagine, and all of these have been recently accredited, there's just one more program that is going through accreditation in bioengineering for health. But we're hiring new faculty, we're hiring new staff members, there's a lot of construction going on campus. We're really gearing up for a next major wave of growth at the university.
Wonderful. So while you contribute to the nation's development and grow physically, people-wise, program-wise, one thing that doesn't change are the principles, right?
That's correct.
How have you managed to keep those principles? Because usually when growth comes, it can compromise some of those because it's a mixed multitude, because now everybody wants to be here. And I suspect that's a very big challenge.
It is. And for us, the way to make sure we're still clear about what we're about, even as we're growing, is we center all our work on really two things. The first one is our purpose. What is our vision? And our purpose, ultimately, is that we see an African continent whose leaders are making decisions in the best interests of their citizens. And we see an African continent where innovation is driving growth. That's our purpose. We want to see Africa transformed. We want to see Africa flourishing. And that guides everything that we do. The second thing is to be very student-centered, okay? So whatever we do, we want to do in the best interests of this next generation of leaders that we're producing for the world, for the continent. And even when, the faculty are doing research, involve students in that research. When we're teaching in a classroom, we don't see ourselves as just people who are pouring knowledge into young people's minds, but people who are igniting imagination, teaching how to analyze, guiding people on a learning journey that they begin here or continue here, but which we hope will continue even after they've left. So I think those two things really keep Ashesi what it is. And then, our core values, actually, you mentioned at the beginning of this program around scholarship, leadership, and citizenship, and making sure that we're using that to guide our work and our behaviors and the decisions that we make here.
Wonderful. I guess my last question, because as I indicated, I would have a sit down with Patrick later on for a more deep conversation. You're creating leaders, helping build leaders for the nation, but you're also showing leadership in the educational space, because there's this leadership team of universities, and I notice you do some work within the educational sector where there are other universities and other schools that sort of feed off from your learnings. Can you talk about that and its importance?
Yes, so actually, interestingly you say, even right now as we're speaking, we have a team in Côte d'Ivoire that's engaged with Francophone universities in this education collaborative. The work that we're doing, when I talked about our vision and our purpose, I talked about Africa. And we take that seriously. Our mission is about an entire people. It's about a continent. And we're keenly aware of the fact that no one institution can scale to the size of the opportunity. But if we work together, we can scale to the size of the opportunity. And so the past few years, we set up this collaborative, and we invited other universities to join us and each other in improving the work that we do. Over the years, we've had faculty from 230 universities that have participated. And interestingly, another 200 50 or so from non-university institutions, so high schools, vocational schools, accreditation boards, etc. And I think that that's all very important, that we are engaging the talents and the energies of others. We're learning from them, they're learning from us, and I am very optimistic that over the next decade or so, we're going to see a big difference in the higher education landscape on the continent, but also even in earlier stages, in secondary education, for example.
I think this is just a round of applause. This is the Ashesi Citi Dialogue, coming to you live from the Hive here at Brekusu campus. My name is Bernard Avle, having a quick chat with Patrick Awuah, who's been laying out some very important things: the growth we see physically, the growth in programs and people, the importance of students and the Africa-wide focus, and also showing leadership using the education collaborative. We'll take a short break where we would give you an example of one of the programs that Ashesi has been talking about. After that, I will be bringing up 4 very interesting people with different leadership perspectives to look at the areas of scholarship, citizenship, leadership, and of course, nation building. Later on, we'll open the floor for those of you watching and those of you here as well. Tell us what you think about how we can make a difference in building our country and our continent. This is the Ashesi Citi Dialogue. A round of applause.
Ghana's constitution is 30 years old.
Wonderful.
And that's the longest lasting configuration of states that we've had to date. And my generation of academics are the first to teach the constitution they actually studied. Every other generation of academics has taught a constitution that's different from what they studied, has seen a coup government, has lived under military rule. There's less of an understanding of what the opposite of a constitutional state is, and therefore we must now intentionally teach our lawyers to protect it, to think through it, to look into the future, away from simply trying to get away from being a military state, to actually having a state that delivers the social goods that make a democracy worth it. So our training going forward cannot be the same as the training that has got us to this point. In designing the program, we started from 10 years after we have been graduating alums. What do we want to see? We're looking to see ethical public leadership. We're looking to see effective and efficient policy implementation. We're looking to see justice systems that run fairly and well. Now, one of the things that Ashesi does very well is leadership and ethical training. If you combine that leadership training with an understanding of public service, which is what public policy really is, and with the law, which is the structuring of how society will function and how each member of society will interact with other members and with the collective, you have a powerful core of citizens to whom you can entrust the mission and the hopes and the dreams of the people of this continent. And so this program is going to give them not just the content of the law, we're going to train them on the reasoning of the law, the whys and the hows, so that when the exigencies, the current circumstances change, then they will be able to recognize that the law needs to change. As we change the way that we train lawyers, we'll be changing the way that the continent trains lawyers. Our constitution is our oldest, but it's also the second oldest in sub-Saharan Africa, after Botswana. We are encountering now challenges that other African democracies are yet to get to. When they get to those points, they will naturally look to us who have been there for guidance. So we must be intentional, not only for our own benefit, but also for the fact that we're setting the course for younger democracies about what Africans do in certain democratic challenges, right? So it's important that our legal education is capable of doing that. And the program that we have designed here is meant to meet that future need, not simply what works now.
Welcome back. We're still here at the Hive, which is a nice hideout here at Burekusu. If you're driving through this area, make sure you check out Ashesi University. This is the Ashesi Citi Dialogues coming to you from this university. We just saw a quick documentary or mini documentary on one of the things the university is doing. We had a chat with Patrick Awuah earlier on. We're going to jump into a panel discussion, which really is premised on some very concerning numbers. Afrobarometer survey across the continent has been done for over 2 decades, shows some interesting trends. Confidence in leadership is dwindling, corruption perceptions are not coming down. Some people even think we don't need democracies. In particular, for Ghana, the group that does not want to vote, the group that feels like this election will not change much for them, happens to be between the ages 18 and 29. Very concerning. About 80% of the people in the I don't want to vote category are among our new voters. It's a big conversation, a big concern. So with a few weeks to our election, we're here to discuss critical issues on citizenship and nation building. But because we are at an institution of scholarship, we'll definitely discuss the role of scholarship in all of that. And so to help us break those matters down, I'm going to call 4 people. I'll start with Bridget Jogbenuku, who is the Executive Director of Mentoring Women Ghana. Please put your hands together for Bridget. On the matter of leading citizenship scholarship, Bridget has been there, done that. She ran as presidential candidate for the political party in the previous election. She's advocating for one thing or the other all the time. And even though we gave her short notice, she says she'll be here because this is an important conversation. Let's once again for Bridget one more time. Thank you, Bridget. It's good to have you. I hope you're happy to be here.
Yes,
wonderful.
I am.
Just checking.
It was a bit stressful, but I'm happy
I know.
to be here.
The drive will humble you. I love it. Of course, talking of things we don't change. 20 years ago, we came and did a big report on the road. Now we're told because of something, the road is not going to be finished. But I'm sure we'll finish the road before I grow a beard. The next person on the panel is a gentleman who's been very critical in the public space. So governance, advocacy in, I consider Ghana's leading think tank, CDD, Kojo Pumpuni Asante. Very busy with elections. He also said he'll be happy to be here because this is an important conversation. Let's put hands together for Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, who's the Director for Policy Engagement and Partnerships Center for Democratic Development, known as CDD Ghana. Kojo, thanks for being here. Very happy to have you. I know elections, 3.5 weeks to go. You're in the thick of things. Hope I didn't disrupt too many things.
You did, but I'm here.
Wonderful.
I'm really happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, we also have a lady who's at the forefront of a new kind of scholarship and teaching. We saw bits of her views in the documentary we showed you. She's head of the Department of Law, Humanities, and Social Sciences at Ashesi, Dr. Mami Mensah-Bonsu. Please. Mami, thanks for coming.
Good morning.
I'm sure you're probably teaching a class and we dragged you here.
Good morning, Bernard. It's an important conversation and I'm glad to be part of it.
Wonderful. Many of you don't know, Mami interned with us many years ago. Helping edit news on our website. We've both grown, Mami.
We have, haven't we?
Last but not least is a student of this university. She's studying computer engineering and she came in early and says, hey, I want to jump in this conversation. Let's welcome Miss Irama Sam, a final year computer engineering student who is, you're happy to be here because you came first. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Wonderful. So I would start with a general opener. So we're in a very interesting era where our politicians give us nice slogans. So in the previous election, we had one district, one factory. We had one village, one dam. And one this, one that. So essentially we have 4 panel members and we have 4 thematic areas. So I'm going to do one panel member, one question. And I'm going to do that for 4 rounds. So for the first round of questions, I think scholarship is important because on my radio show, people say, well, Ghana, we are 2 book long. Let's just do what we have to do. Now, we're talking about nation building, right? And I don't know who, maybe I'll start with the student, Irama. Your experience in Ashesi, you've been studying 3.5 to 4 years, I'm not sure. How do you think learning is important in building you as a person and also building us as a country?
Thank you so much for the question. Am I heard?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. So When we talk of scholarship and my experience here at Ashesi in terms of its contribution to nation building, I think there's a very deliberate attempt to shape me to become the kind of citizen that the nation will need. So when we speak of scholarship, it's just demonstrating knowledge in a certain field. And it is usually when you express a certain level of expertise in that field that you are termed a scholar. But then one thing that is very important about that is that in that you exhibit critical thinking and analytical thinking, because anyone can get a certain information and read it and probably memorize it, but then it is by being able to apply that to a problem that makes it outstanding. So my experience here at Ashesi, as she said, I am a computer engineering student. I've done a lot of math. I've done a lot of secretary and all of that, but most importantly, I've done leadership. I'm now doing economics, and that is very different from the kind of education a lot of people have. If you are going to do engineering, you just do a lot of math, a lot of building, and then that is it. But then by doing leadership, learning about how I lead myself, even before I think of leading other people, learning about ethical theories, and most importantly in leadership for going out into the community and actually serving, being able to empathize with the people, see their experiences. So such an education is very important for nation building because you are not just learning, you are applying what you learn. If there's a situation, you are bringing in nuance, something someone who hasn't had a holistic education cannot do. And the kind of education I have at Ashesi is one that makes the statement very true. Usually people say a jack of all trades is a master of none, but then the part they forget is that, but oftentimes it's better than a master of one.
Wow. Oh my, come on guys. Can you repeat that?
So we usually say a jack of all trades is a master of none, but then there's the other part that says, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
Wow.
So as a computer engineering student, having experience in leadership, economics, and text and meaning, being able to read a text and not just read it for as I see on the paper, but being able to read meaning, connect it to other things is very important, and I think it prepares me better for contributing to nation building because now it's practical. It's not set in stone all the time. You accept that there is some form of nuance that come with it. Circumstances can change and all of that.
I think it's just a round of applause. Amazing. Wow. Dr. Mensabus, I'll call you Mami for the rest of the panel. I saw you nodding vigorously. I like the way she used shaped and then the idea of leadership and community. Most of my mates, when we're going to uni, we're looking for a job. But listening to Amma, it's very clear she's been shaped differently. How deliberate is that process? Talk a bit about how the way we shape our students helps them become the kind of leaders we want to see in the next generation.
So we're very intentional about what kind of student we want to have and what kind of leader we want to see. And there's a direct line between the kind of student you create and the kind of leader you get. The same way that if you raise your kids to play football, they're not going to win a baseball tournament. If you don't raise leaders, you're not going to get leaders. And so one of the things that we do, as you've heard, is that we have a leadership program. Most people, when they hear that, think that the students go to class and take notes. And they do some of that. They take some notes. They do get readings. They read them, they come to class, we talk about them. But we don't leave it there. We create opportunities outside of their classrooms for them to think, to apply what they have done. We ask them so we think of leadership as our leadership course as a single course that we take over 4 semesters, so across 3 years. And in each year, you think of a different aspect of leading, right? So you start out thinking about yourself. As a person, what are the things you need to do, to know, to be aware of, to put yourself in a position where you're making choices that you are able to be responsible for and proud of? We're not actually setting out to teach you these are the correct decisions. Because what are the correct decisions in 2024 may be the wrong decisions for 2092. What we're teaching you is how do you make those decisions and how do you take responsibility for the outcomes of those decisions. In your next leadership module, we think about the society, the good society, the kind we all want to live in, right? But we don't just look at videos from American movies about, fast-moving cars and nice buildings. We actually talk about what it takes to live in one. And in so doing, we try to create in them the sense of ownership for the society that you live in. If you don't know how to build a society, you are a victim of the experience that you have. But if you do think about what it takes to make a society, and you ask yourself what you're willing to do for your society, then you have at some point the inability to escape the fact that the state of your society is somehow your fault. And so one of the things for me I have found very satisfying since I joined the team here is watching my leadership, 2 students in particular, go from thinking of politics as a sort of dirty thing that, unscrupulous people do, to having a sense of investment in what decisions are made in our classrooms, in our larger community, for people to say they'll stand for positions, or they will even go. I had a student who said they will go to the Ashesi Parliament meetings just to go and make a fuss. I was so proud of that. Because you want to take time out of what you could be doing, having fun or what, to go and make a fuss about your society. If you don't have people like that, your society isn't going anywhere. So we are very intentional to build these different aspects of what being a leader means.
You're on a roll. I think round of applause. You're on a roll. I wanted to come to Kojo, but Bridget wants to jump in. So Bridget, you seem happy with what you're hearing.
I was actually waiting for your question. But
all right. So I was actually going to start with Kojo to say that we are in a cynical environment where people think we are too book long. But what you do at CDD includes the usage of knowledge. You generate knowledge and use it. For example, Afrobarometer, the last round, I've done almost 3 or 4 programs with that. How critical is the generation and use of knowledge to the development efforts? So let me start with Kojo on that.
Okay. It's essential. I mean, one of the reasons we say let the people have their say, because you can think of a group of people who are given power, who, because they have power, they think their knowledge is the knowledge of everybody, and everybody should accept what they say. So until you have, done a survey like Afrobarometer to understand what ordinary people think from wherever they come from, you are not checked, by your own, hubris and power that you hold. So the things that we do with research and analysis is really to give, information to those who have to make decisions on a day-to-day basis about what the people, it's a feedback mechanism, so that it informs the actions that they take. That is supposed to actually promote the welfare of the people. So it is also part of the process of participation that we are providing, because people are shocked when you do an Afrobarometer, you go to, because the sample will take you to the most remotest place. That person that gives you an hour or 2 hours of interview, you'll be surprised that they also have views of what is going on. How do you capture that? How do they interact with the governance system if you never give them that opportunity? So these things are so essential. And for me, because I actually miss doing research and analysis. These days I do too much administrative stuff. But I ask myself, after COVID, one of the things that have grown a lot is delivery, business. I'm asking who's doing that scholarship? What can they tell us about the growth opportunity in that field? I want to be able to read that on Citi. I want you to be able to have that access to that literature. And I don't get that. So I find scholarship so important because it gives us evidence all the time about what is changing in society and what we can do to react to it.
Wonderful, Kojo. Round of applause for Kojo as well. So my summary of what Kojo said is something somebody said to me, that everywhere else knowledge is power, but in Ghana, once you win power, knowledge is assumed. So in Ghana, power is knowledge, so that you can have great research, different ideas about to manage a city, but the minister says this is what we're going to do because new king, new law. Bridget, talk to me a bit about that. Because the real thing I want to ask you is your leadership journey. But there's times you text into my show frustrated that something so self-evident, some of our duty bearers don't seem to get it. And it's almost as if once they get into position, they can do anything they like without necessarily recourse to research, knowledge, and what essentially is the best way to go. What are your thoughts around that, and how can we change that?
Well, you would like me to talk about my leadership journey, and I'd like to say first of all, that scholarship, yes, is very important, particularly even the constituency of people in scholarship. I say that people, students and scholars these days are really privileged. You have a great opportunity because those of us who have forayed into politics and not quite succeeded, we grew up in a time where we didn't even have the option of a democracy. Most people forget that.
Yeah.
I grew up, when the revolution, 4th June, I was 10 years old. And I grew up through my secondary school not in a democracy. The first time I had the opportunity to vote, 1992, I was in second year university. So we have not had that opportunity in our time as scholars to influence governance and democracy in this country. When we tried, I remember when I was in the University of Ghana, some students tried to go on a demonstration and they went as far as the main gate. I'm sure you know where the roundabout is now. And they were chased back by police and military and beaten soundly. So this opportunity of the constituency of scholarship, not only because you know better or you are better informed or you've studied and can apply, but also that you have a certain strength in your constituency, in your numbers, is very important. You must be able to question some of the policy decisions that our leaders come up with. And you have the information to be able to question it. When somebody is coming up and saying 1D, 1F for 24-hour economy, really, what does it mean? And how does it translate into the people's lives? So, indeed, I get frustrated. I send you messages every morning. And this morning when I didn't hear you, I said, oh, Bernard is already at Ashesi. Yeah. I get frustrated because we are too quiet. And those of us who have this opportunity now, who have the freedom to speak up, to question, and to debate and debunk some of these policies, we are quiet and just being
I'll start my citizenship round with you, but put your hands together for her. Because I think my summary of the first round essentially is that, look, being a scholar is a privilege, but it's also a responsibility. And for a democracy to function or a society to function, the best ideas must win. And this place, among other places of scholarship, are areas where the best ideas come to the top. So don't just use those ideas to get degrees and get a big car. Use those ideas to change society. That's my summary of what I've heard so far. But you ended on a citizenship note, and I'm coming back to you because when the president was being sworn in, he said we should be citizens and not spectators. So a lot of people started thinking about who a citizen is. But I sense people see citizenship from a point of the right to vote, having a Ghana card, and calling myself a Ghanaian. But from what you've said to me in the past, that's not who a citizen is, right? So, Bridget, explain your concept of who a citizen is and why many Ghanaians are not being citizens. They're basically just being spectators.
Well, I don't know whether it comes from our history and a certain fear to speak up, but a citizen should be bold enough to say what they want and also do or take some responsibility. I am sure that if I ask among, and I've had the opportunity to speak to students, I've asked them, how many of you are actually registered to vote? And few hands will go up.
You can try that here.
Well, how many of you have a voter's ID?
That's a good 55%.
50%.
No, let's ask the question. How many of you are registered to vote in this election? It's above average. It's not about 60%, probably more.
Is that good enough, though? Well,
Oh, they're not all Ghanaians.
They are not all Ghanaians.
Okay. How many of you are citizens registered to vote in your country?
Yes.
So let's see the hands again, just to be sure. No, okay, so these are then those who didn't raise their hands earlier. All right.
The other question I ask is, how many of you voted in your local level elections?
1, 2, 3. Oh, Lord.
Yes. This is it. And that is what it takes to be a citizen. That is what it takes when you live in a certain locale to find out who the assembly person is, or to say, I want to be the assembly person of this place. And when it comes to, if you won't be, support whoever wants to be. Yes. And if you won't support the person, go and vote, at least. Make a decision. Be involved in the local governance of your community. And take it from there. Take it the next step. Be concerned when you walk around and see things that are not right. And speak up about it. And it doesn't matter that it's speaking against someone you know, or someone, your uncle, or it's about your principles and your values. And I heard Patrick say something about principles. I think that we have so much gone against our values and our principles in support of our political parties. We've become political people or partisan people rather than citizens. And that is where we have to change it. You must, it's country first.
All right.
Before whatever political party, if you like, you want to be.
Thank you, Bridget. Kojo, your take on citizenship?
Just maybe something that Bridget said about partisanship and citizenship. I don't think it actually should be, one should be positive, one should be negative.
All right.
That's the thing that I think has grown. We've sort of turned everything that's good into a very bad thing, because what are political parties established to do? They're supposed to aggregate our interests, so that in a democracy, it's not Athenian democracy where everybody's standing in the market and saying one thing or the other. It's a way of organizing citizens to be able to put some idea out there. Now, somehow that has become almost the excuse for anything that you can do if you are part of a party. That is negative. That is even anti-state, anti-government. I don't. For me, parties are supposed to be positive in a democracy. For me, citizenship imposes a certain bundle of rights and responsibilities. It's a term of art. Okay. If you say you are a citizen, there are certain rights that accrue to you that you get to exercise. The same way you have duties. So for any democratic society to thrive, you have to have active citizens who are aware of their rights, but also aware of their responsibilities, and actually exercise them on a daily basis. If that is missing, then you have a problem. So Afrobarometer shows that, for example, yes, in Ghana we are doing 70% on average that people go to vote. But when it comes to protest, it's about 10% of people that will go and protest on an issue.
Wow.
Maybe even lower, people who write to their MPs or do any kind of citizenship type things that is supposed to make a democracy, thrive and work. So I don't think we are alive to our roles as citizens. We think that when we go and vote,
we've done our work.
The government that we elect should govern, and we'll get our bread and our water.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. You have to almost be on that government from day one to the next election to make sure that you actually get the bread and the water. Wonderful. And I think that gap is what we have to fill.
Thank you. Mami, your thoughts on citizenship?
Okay, so imagine we have a house, and there are 3 adults in the house. We're not going to introduce them. There's a plate of cookies on the table, and there's also a tap that's running in the sink in the kitchen. It's just running. It's just wasting. Water's going away. One of them comes, sees the cookies, and says, "Oh, they don't know if they can take it, so they're just going to wait and see." And they don't really want to spoil anything, so they sit down. They don't touch the tap. They don't touch the cookies. And then the second person comes in and eats a bunch of cookies and sees the tap and is like, "Oh, I'm sitting down, I'm comfortable, I can't get up. How much will it cost?" And then a third person comes in, the third adult comes in, sees the cookies, takes the cookie, then hears the water and says, "Oh, I can't waste this water, my bills will go up," and goes to turn off the water. Who owns the house? Which of these three people owns the house? That's the citizen. Wow. The person who both knows their rights and their responsibilities. The one who cares when the water is wasting, because they know the bill is theirs. That's a citizen. Wow. The country is our house. Whether it goes well or not depends on how much we're willing to give to it. So if we will let the water run, then we can walk around saying, "Oh yes, we own a house," but we're not actually invested in that house. A citizen is invested in their country. Wow. And so like Kojo was saying, there are duties. And the duties are not simply to be in an electoral queue. Although we respect that, because sometimes you can be in the queue for 4 hours. We respect that. But that's not it. It's knowing who you're supposed to be asking the questions to and asking them and waiting for their answers and telling them, "You didn't give me an answer the last time I asked," and writing to your MP. And no, your MP should not be out of your country for 6 months and you don't know this. You don't even know this. A real citizen protects their home, enjoys their rights, but protects their home.
I love this. Come on, guys, this is awesome. So the question is, are you eating the cookie? Are you watching television or putting off the tap? I think the question would ask. That was a brilliant illustration. So as a student, by the way, have you registered to vote? And put you on the spot there. What are your thoughts on citizenship? Because I like the rights, responsibility kind of thing. Do you feel treated as a citizen in Ghana? Do you get to enjoy the rights? And do you understand your responsibility? Can you share a little around how you conceptualize your citizenship, Amma?
Okay, thank you. So definitely my rights are not being infringed upon in any way I'm aware of. Okay. So yes, I consider myself a citizen enjoying my full rights.
Your cookies?
The rights I'm well aware of. So they've said a lot, and it's true. Citizenship is about your rights and as well as your responsibilities. So as a young person and a student, I have responsibilities just like any other citizen, but I have a privilege, sort of, because it was mentioned how some people grew up not having the kind of citizenship I have right now. So that means greater responsibility for me and people in my demographic. And you give the statistics of the people who do not want to vote right now in the country, and I happen to be part of that statistic. So the question is, why? And it's a lot of things. Nobody can make it set in stone. I think the Afrobarometer statistics talks to it, the perception about corruption and all of that. But I think beyond that, as a young person, I'm responsible for my community. In as much as I'm responsible for myself, I want to do well in life, but I also have to make sure my community also does well. So how do I realize that kind of citizenship? It is by looking at what is important to me in my community and then speaking to it, working towards it. I like that they said emailing your MP, writing to them and all of that. But I think as young people, we need to feel empowered about what we also can do towards our responsibility. So if there is something wrong in a community that we can fix with our skills and little resources, can we improvise with something available in the community to solve this problem? I think young people today, like myself, are empowered to kind of do that. So for example, if you're a mechanical engineering student and there happens to be a bridge not functioning well in your community and it's just about putting nails and wood together to make it work, I don't think you really need to talk to your assemblyman. I mean, you can let them know what you want to do, but I think taking charge of certain things are one of the ways as a young person I can really realize my citizenship in terms of my responsibilities.
Let me press you a bit. Do you see this happening in your community? For example, here, do you have people who volunteer to go teach? So, for example, we say some kids in a community, they are not well educated, they're dropping out of school. Does the curriculum here or the leadership program here encourage, and do you see the citizens here, beyond complaining to the MP, go and actually solve a problem?
Well, at Ashesi, it looks like, whether you like it or not, when you do Leadership 4, you have to go out there and help solve a problem. And it is mandated, but then I think based on the essence of it, you understanding its importance, some students go out of their way, even after the Leadership 4 series, to continue volunteering. So there are currently initiatives run by students, led by students, where in the Brekusu community, which is where we are right now, we live here till vacation, so we are part of this community. People go out there and then effect change in any way they see possible.
Wonderful.
With their resources.
Just last question to you. So that group of 18 to 29 who say they won't vote, you understand it better than the rest of us on the panel. What do you know why? Because I was surprised that the first time I voted was the year 2000. I was very eager to vote because this was the first time I was going to get the chance to choose a president and an MP. And then the surveys are saying, by the way, this is not just Afrobarometer. The NCC survey corroborates this, that the largest group of I won't vote were 18 to 29. And that was shocking. Is it that the rest of us misunderstand these guys? Is it that we are speaking a different language? Why on earth will people of your age group say that even the basic thing, the voting that Bridget says is not enough, even that you don't want to do it? What's going on here? Help me.
Okay, so on top of my head, one of the things I can think of is, if you don't think that activity is going to affect a lot of change, then you might as well not do it. But I want to push back a little on that. That is also because of the kind of democracy we've been brought up to accept and understand. Yeah. So I used to make a joke with my friends that for a long time, I understood democracy like how we say it in Chi, Kabi Mamin Kabi. It means you can just talk your mind.
I tell you.
And that's what democracy is. But then, of course, democracy is beyond that once in 4 years activity. I think if we were made to understand that there is more you can do as a citizen that would affect the change you want to see beyond voting. If we know in a community we could sit with our assemblyman like I'm sitting with you right now, an opportunity we don't get. If we are empowered to do that, if we're empowered to come up with something and be able to sit with the adults about it and discuss it and be treated as though we also have something to contribute, I think that would make us want to be involved more. But then, if we see it as after every 4 years, people are coming to come around and solicit for our votes, and that is all they think we can give them, I think naturally there'll be...
wow.
Yeah.
No, I love this. Amma, put your hands together for Irama. This is the Ashesi Citi Dialogue. We're coming to you live from the Hive here at Ashesi Brekusu. My name is Bernard Avle. We're discussing 4 key themes: scholarship, citizenship, leadership, and nation building. My partner, Bridget Jobanuku, who is a feisty citizen, Kojo Pumpuni Asante, CDD, and of course, Dr. Mami Mensah Bonsu, who teaches here, and Amma Ewurama Sam, who is a citizen. I'm coming to Dr. Mami to conceptualize the leadership citizenship issue for me, because a lot of times I hear people put them in the same sentence to suggest that we have the leaders, we have the citizens, we have the government and the governed. That's the way they frame it. Is that a good way to look at it? Or is there a bit more nuance? So help me sort of put the two in context. So are we citizens and then the people in power are the government? Is that how it's supposed to work? So we play our role, they play our role. Or is there a sense in which you can sort of make it a bit more interesting?
So I like to think of, I always say that a democracy is an agreement between a state, its citizens, and their agents. So the government is the agents of the citizens. And the citizens came together to form the state because they found it would be easier to collaborate than to try and get everything they want individually against each other. Yeah. So you have that triangle in which the citizen has the benefit of and the membership of the state, and the leader, the government, is the agent of the citizen. So that they are in power because the agents, the citizens have chosen them to help them achieve the purpose for which they became a state. Wonderful. There's no one group that can exist without the other. A state without citizens doesn't exist. A government without citizens doesn't exist. And citizens without a government are a group of people who have a lot of conversations and no actions. Right. So in the end, you need all three. Those who lead, in every situation, there's someone who's leading. Mm-hmm. But those who lead are invariably shaped by those they lead. When we say you get the leadership you deserve, it is that your leaders respond to what you will accept. So if you have a leader who walks into your space and starts to knock everybody on the head, and then everybody lines up for their knock, the next leader will also come and think what leadership means is knock them on the head, and they line up. If someone walks in and your leader tries to knock you on the head, and you guys catch his hand and say, no, that's not what you are a leader for, he will not knock you on the head. So in the end, we have the situation where the leader's job is to make, if you to use a corny term, your dreams come true, right? But they are the dreams that you have dreamed. Mm-hmm. And it is the extent to which you insist that they make them come true that they will do so. Otherwise, they'll take your power and make their dreams come true.
So in a sense, is the tail wagging the dog?
Indeed.
That's how it's supposed to be. It
Indeed.
Must come from us.
Us, and then them, and then us, and then them. So every time you take a step, they respond to that step. And when their response is always, yes, you're great, you're amazing, then...
So when you hear people say things like, everything rises and falls on leadership, or leadership is cause, everything is effect, these are nice, neat things to say. Are you saying that
untrue.
They sound nice, but not necessarily...
Completely untrue. Everything rises and falls on followership. It is the type of follower you are that determines the type of leader you get. A follower who asks no questions gets a tyrant of a leader. A follower who takes no instructions also gets an ineffective leader. So in the end, it's really the followership. What are you asking? What are you holding them to?
Some people point to the Emirates, where these guys control resources and they are visionary and they build like 40-year plans. So Dubai, what do you call it? And some people say, well, that challenges your view, because in those spaces, these are like monarchs who decided to have a vision for their people, and they're giving them a great life, right? So I want to push back a bit on that. Does it not depend on the context and the kind of system you run?
I think every system has its accountability mechanisms, and it is a false belief to think monarchies have none. There's a reason why the monarchies of Europe don't exist anymore, and that reason is the followers. At some point, they got tired of getting nothing out of the monarchy.
So even with these guys in the Emirates who are probably learning from the history of Europe, that if I don't lead right, they'll kick me out.
I'm sure they're learning from their own history as well. I'm sure there's been an emir or two who's been beheaded before.
That's interesting. Any thoughts on that, Bridget? Let me come to you on this. Very interesting idea. Followership is everything. Yes, turning this thing on its head.
Well, yes. I think that throughout, if you look at our political parties, regardless of which one, we are a bunch of yes people. Everything, as long as I belong to you or to your party, whatever you do is right. Oh, His Excellency has done this and that in a very beautiful way. And even if you are critical of it, you are wrong because you just want to be in opposition. And it is that followership which has cowed some of us into silence and accepted what is the status quo. But if we are able to speak up, and when you speak up, yes, you are tagged and you are threatened, then we keep quiet. But if we are able to be bold and defy and say, listen, this is what I want, and I think that this is the best for the collective, and therefore I am going to speak up against it, then things will start to change. I mean, it's very disheartening to hear that 60% of 18 to 29 years, 80% say they won't vote.
Let me qualify it. The group that say they won't vote,
I think it's about
60-something% of them are within that age group. That's not the same thing to say.
Well, it's interesting because
I'm trying for the purpose of viewers. So we're not saying 60% of 18 to 29 years won't vote.
Okay.
They are saying of the population of those who say they won't vote, that group, a certain percentage are in this age bracket, and that percentage is about 60%.
And isn't that the percentage of youth we have in the country?
No, I'm just saying that just to put it in context.
Yes.
So it's not like
So
6 out of 10
but
you say don't vote.
it
That's
is
what it means.
disheartening, and it is disheartening because you're feeling that there's nothing I can change, but there's a whole lot you can change in your little corner. There's a lot we can change, a collective, because you see there are other people. There are lots of us who think like that percentage of those who say they won't change, who think we are between a rock and a hard place. Who am I choosing? Is going to be the same thing. We've been doing the same thing and nothing is changing and we are still doing it and all that. So let's all come together and do something different. Let's all come together and say, you know what? Just for the sake of change, I'm voting differently. Just for the sake of change. And
see what happens. Yeah.
And see what happens.
I'll take Kojo's take on this and then sort of open the floor with my next group.
Yeah, I just wanted to say two things. One is an example of, for me, one of the most perverse governance outcomes that we've had in the most recent times with this Galamsey. And I hope everybody knows what Galamsey, illegal small-scale mining. To have a situation where everybody appreciates that most of our water bodies are polluted. And we have a health risk. There are all kinds of risks. I mean, you have the medical association. Everybody has presented this information. And then your leaders conclude that because an election is coming and they might lose votes, they want to postpone action on tackling it to after they've won the votes, with the logic that they are going to govern the people that are already dying from the pollution. And somehow, the whole society is okay with it. It's able to say, oh, well, organized labor said, oh, maybe, let's hold on. We are doing some things. I think it's so perverse, but it kind of affirms what Mami is saying. That because the person who is making that decision is one man. And with all of us who are now watching whether the fish that we are eating, the food that we are eating, where it's coming from and all of that, we are able to just also accept. So it makes the whole governance process a bit perverse that you cannot hold the leader accountable, even for your own survival. Right? So that question for me, I think is there, and I'm hoping to hear what people think about that, because it doesn't then, it just distorts what democracy should be about. Because if even at the peril of my own life, I cannot save myself in this democracy, then there's a problem that we have to address. The other point I wanted to make, and this is something we can talk a bit about later, is that we also have to understand that there's limitation to citizenship. The state must work. At this point, I mean, I feel completely exhausted for the 20 years I've been doing this job, because there are things that you expect the state to do, and it's been given to citizens. If CSOs don't come and talk about it, then nothing happens. There will not be any accountability and so on. So even for us to make citizenship work, we have to consider things like even the awareness for engagement, the cost of engagement, the infrastructure for engagement. It has to be seamless. The point that Rama was saying, that in the UK, it's by law that every policy that you do, you have to consult. And there is a whole legislation that governs, so that it's not that some civil society have to come and mobilize you to go and find out what is going on in Parliament before you can participate. It's there, it's part of the structure of society. So it makes it easier for you to fulfill your citizenship role.
I think our panel deserves a round of applause. We're still talking lots of things. These are big words: scholarship, citizenship, leadership, nation building. And of course, the panel have been quite brilliant here. I like the Kojo case study, the perverse example. And I was asking myself, was it a leadership failure or a citizenship failure? And on the citizen side, was it a lack of knowledge about the effect of Galamsey, or a values question? Because there are people in communities in the Galamsey who say this is what we do to live. So you who live in Accra, don't come tell us what to do. And then people in Accra say, well, the water belongs to all of us, and we can't sacrifice. So my point is, collectively, maybe we have to ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? Those of us who have superior knowledge, who claim we have superior knowledge, did we reach out to get others? Because one of the words I hear is, let's work together. If the citizens are divided, the leaders can have a field day in essentially misgoverning. And it seems to me, as in the Galamsey example, we, the elite, who say, Achimota speaks yesterday, stop Galamsey now. We didn't really go to do the dirty work of telling people that, guys, it's going to kill you. We feel like it's just telling government to do the right thing. Government is calculating votes and says, you, the guys shouting, are only 15%. The guys in the community are more. So I sort of am accepting what Mami is saying, but I'm not sure how to fix it. Is it a question of we focus on the wrong target in targeting the government? Should we have worked on ourselves first so we build a bigger coalition? Because if organized labor had actually done that strike, the president would probably have taken action. So when organized labor said they were not going to strike, we all just got exhausted. So I want us to think, and I'm opening this to you, right? Where did we go wrong? It's a good case study, all right? Is it enough to say, I know what government has to do, government should do it, I'll fight? Or I need to get more people to understand where we're going? So that the 6 years I spent fighting Galamsey should have been spent educating people on its ills in the communities? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm opening the floor. What are your thoughts on what the missing link is and what we should be doing to get a better society, using the Galamsey or any other example, the cookies and the running water thing? Who's going to? Yeah, Patrick, of course. Please, I need a couple of mics here. And if you're watching us on TV, please put your comments on the stream, whether it's Facebook or YouTube. Jude, please help me with the mics. I'll let Patrick make a comment. I just like to see by hands those who are interested. Yes, Selassie as well. Anybody else? All right. So we're on TV, so smile. You're on candid camera. Smile, you're on TV. All right, Patrick.
Okay.
Sound, yeah.
So this is just a quick comment before we start the conversation or continue conversation. One thing that struck me about the conversation we just had was we seem to be drawing a line between citizens and leaders. Mm-hmm. But I would suggest, and we're just talking about citizens. Mm-hmm. But first of all, we should talk about good citizenship. You can have bad citizens and good citizens, okay, right? And good citizens care about the common good, mm-hmm, okay? Maybe one definition.
Yes.
Leaders themselves are citizens. Mm-hmm. A leader who is a bad citizen causes problems. Mm-hmm. A leader who doesn't care about the common good, that cares about himself or herself first, or even their political party first, rather than all the citizens, can be problematic. And I would suggest that as we're continuing this conversation, we should think about good citizenship is important, that good leaders are also good citizens first. Okay. If they're not good citizens, they will not be good leaders of the citizens.
I like that. You can't produce a good leader out of a bad citizen. Yep. This is great. You should put your hands together for profound ideas. Yes, madam.
Okay. So, on just
your name, your age, your class, and you start your letter.
Okay. So, my name is Selina LC. I'm 19. A mechanical.
Oh, no, forgive me. Sorry, that was... I borrowed that from Cheche Kule, a TV show we used to watch. Uncle George Lane. Just tell us what you're studying. Forgive me.
I'm a mechanical engineering student, class of 2027. All right. So, on this issue, I wanted to say what Dr. Patrick said, but since he has said the beginning, let me continue. So, it's more like, I don't think there can be a distinction between our leaders and the citizens, because as he said, our leaders are first citizens of the country. And nobody has to take the blame. I don't think it has to be that this person has to do more or this group of people are the ones that are not doing it. So we cannot say that the citizens are not doing it when it seems like both parties are not doing what they are supposed to do. So let's all do what we are supposed to do at because as he said, if our leaders are good citizens, they would do the right thing and they would make the right policies. They will react when they are supposed to react to the views of the people.
All right.
And with that, it will even make the responsibility of the citizens easier.
Wonderful.
Because I wouldn't have to go on a demonstration for people to be wounded, for the police to shoot at me, if my leaders will listen to me when I come to City TV to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have to go to an extreme level for some things to happen if I will be listened to. So if both parties do their jobs, I think we'll
wonderful.
Get
Put your hands together for her. I just wanted to say something. We have two very good definitions that we can use as a working definition. So Mami said, a citizen is the person who both takes the cookie but puts off the tap, understands right and responsibility. And then Patrick takes it further to say a good citizen is the person who thinks about the common good or the collective good. So I think those are good working definitions for us to now ask, am I a good citizen? Number two, how do we get more good citizens? Right? I think those are very important because the conversation shouldn't just be everywhere. We're trying to get to something. And I like those two definitions, right? So in your contributions, it's good to say, I'm Bernard Avle, I'm a good citizen. And this is the evidence. And by the way, this is my plan for creating, come, bring the mic, for creating more good citizens. Give it to Selassie. We're in the same economics class, so I'm favoring her. Selassie.
Thank you very much. And it's been an amazing panel. I've learned a lot today. And I say I've learned a lot because I feel like that is something basic that probably most Ghanaians are missing. Where did we lose about teaching what the responsibility, or who a citizen is, and what the responsibilities of a good citizen is? Maybe I've forgotten about it, but I don't think I've learned that anywhere. And today has been an eye-opener for me. So I think that is where we should start from. Wherever, whether it is primary schools, secondary schools, or even us now, we should start from that. And then in a small way, we would be able to start doing that. And looking at, you asked the question whether I am being a good citizen. I don't think I'm being a good citizen.
Oh, thank you.
Because I look at my own community and I see so much going wrong that I could be, actively speaking up or doing something about, and I'm saying, there we go again. He's doing X or not doing Y, but I am not taking any action.
Wow.
I think it's going to change from today.
Thank you, Selassie. So we shouldn't assume that because a person is born a Ghanaian and given, Jude, look at where I'm going. Give it to this lady. White, in white. Because you are born Ghanaian doesn't mean you're a citizen. You must be trained. It's not assumed. It must be inculcated. I like this point. Hello, madam.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
When was at what point in your
Sound.
education did you encounter the idea of citizenship? At what point did you learn what you were supposed to do? If you go through UPS, high school, university, when was the first time you thought of having to do something for your community? I think that's where we went wrong. The fact that we don't tell our children this. We don't teach them until they are much too old. I remember looking at I homeschooled my children for 7 years, my husband and I, and when I first started, we thought we'd just administer the material that existed and just do it differently. And so I started looking at the material that we teach our children. And one of the things that most took me aback was that the citizenship textbook, the Ghanaian citizenship textbook for year 6, had a topic on brushing your teeth. And I thought, in year 6, the average Ghanaian is 12. That's when we're going to teach them the value of brushing their teeth? And then I did a comparison with an American state curriculum. And in year 4, they were talking about paying taxes. What are taxes? What are they for? Year 4.
That's class 4.
Class 4. Wow. And I compare, if we are now teaching them why they should brush their teeth in year 6, when will we tell them to care about Ghana?
Beautiful. So that adds to
Can I add to that?
Yeah, I would have come back to you guys, but so you add more.
Well, yes. The thing is, a long time ago, I think I'm averagely a little older than everybody here. There used to be O-level civics. My sister, who is older, wrote O-level civics.
Not an elective.
No.
It's like a...
Yes, civics. But by the time I was writing O-level 7 years later, there was government, but there was no civics. And I think everything was then bunched up into social studies.
Yeah.
And
now we don't know what
that citizenship part of civics was just left to, die. Yeah. And it may be because of the years, the revolutionary years, it became, we no go sit down and, rebellion and revolution and things like that. Mm-hmm. So then we lost it. There is nothing about civics and citizenship and all that anymore. And it's a pity because...
So you're endorsing the need to be deliberate.
There is a need
on the citizenship education or inculcation.
Yes. A concern for your community outside of your four walls.
Wonderful.
You really must.
Thank you. Lady in white, finally.
Thank you. So using the scenario Dr. Mami used of a room where a leader comes in with the followers and the knocking scene, I feel like in Ghana, we've made our leaders knockers for a very long time. And now from 18 to the ages between 18 to 19 years, we are trying to stand up and prevent them from knocking us. But because it has been a trend, it's a habit, we are not able to stop them. So that's where all this disparity and everything comes in, because the leaders feel that they have been knocking us for a very long time. So why should you stop me now? Mm-hmm. And leaders forget that they are citizens, as Patrick said. They are citizens before they become leaders. Yeah. The moment they become leaders, they forget that, I was part of this group of people. Mm-hmm. And citizens too are not aware that, I'm a leader on my own. Mm-hmm. I can speak for myself. Everybody in this room is their own leader. Because I can be the president, you can be the president. What makes you different from...
I think what you're saying, the forces don't like it. But persist, keep saying it. Keep saying it. Yeah, I knew. Yeah. You're almost there. And I wanted to add what you were saying. It's not the guys have knocked their heads for long, and they think that's the normal thing to do. And the worst part is when you say, don't knock me again, 17 of the 19 guys say, please keep knocking. Because that's what it's supposed to be. So your challenge is not only to stop the guy knocking your head, but also to tell the 17 other guys that, hell, this is not how to live. Which is where I'm going to. How do you... Because you can tell the guy to stop knocking your head. But so long as he has 17 other heads to knock, he's fine. Because they'll still vote for him. Yes. So how do you get him to stop knocking? And also tell these 17 guys that, hey, this guy shouldn't be knocking our heads. You get me? So just wrap it up.
Okay. Ghanaians lack unity. We don't have a sense of unity amongst us. Thank you. We know what is wrong and what is right. We are not children anymore. Even a 5-year-old child will know that what is happening is not good and what is bad. Yeah. But because of certain benefits people receive from higher ups, they tend to neglect the wrong and neglect the right, and look at the wrong, which is not helping the nation.
Wonderful.
Grow. So I believe that Ghanaians should come together. We should put our hands together and fight a force. If some people are talking against it and some people are doing it, it's not going to help the country. We are just going to go back. I don't see Ghana progressing. We are always going back. Other countries are moving forward and Ghana is stagnant. So we need to put our hands together. We need to put forces together to work together.
Wonderful.
To make Ghana progress.
You didn't mention your name. What's your name?
Yodias.
Eunice?
Yodias.
Yodias. Thank you very much. Put your hands together for Yodias. Which is why I like the Ashesi Education Collaborative, because Ashesi is not trying to shine alone. You are bringing people along, all right? But this what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in this way, then I'll come this way, so it's easier. So let's go to the back. The lady in orange, I don't know, what's the color? I'm not good at colors. It looks, what's the color? Rust. You went to gay here?
I did.
I know, Charlie. Are you also gay? That's where they learn these things. My sister is one. Go ahead.
Rust, okay. Wow. So my name is Jessica, and the conversation I find very interesting. I think that one of the things we need to consider is a redefinition of what leadership is. When I was a student here at Ashesi, we had a class called leadership, and we talked a lot about servant leadership. And it allowed you to engage with what it means to have power and what it means to be responsible for the power that you have and what it means to be a good leader, what makes you a good leader. And we tended in that class to go into the community because we thought of leadership as it's not what you get or what you gain for yourself. It's really what you give out to people and how you pull everyone else along to make sure that we're all in for a good ride. And so I think that we need to re-examine what we define leadership as. It's not about driving the Land Cruisers in town and making sure that when you're driving through traffic, everyone else should suffer in traffic, but then because you have a title, we should pave way for you to go through, right? So that's one. Two, we need to understand and define what our core values are. Because I find that and yes, we've talked about civic education, I think it's important, but if we have, growing up, I remember us thinking, what does it mean to be a Ghanaian? And the one thing that everyone says is, oh, Ghanaians are humble and they're very welcoming and loving. Yeah. But at that point, like, what does that actually mean for us? We need to define what our core values are as Ghanaians, as citizens, as this is what everyone must sign on to. From childhood, you get it inculcated as part of who you are, as part of your thinking, in the school curriculum, and then we realize that the shift starts to happen.
Wonderful.
And so for me, how do we create more good citizens? Redefine what leadership is.
I like that.
Let's hold ourselves accountable and then define what our core values are. And that way, when you see someone doing something that's not a part of what the core values are, you can then point them out and say, hey, you've misstepped and you've gone out of the line. So that's
yeah. Thank you so much, because I wasn't connecting the leadership citizenship thing. And you say to create a good citizen, redefine leadership. So you've sort of linked it up nicely. Thank you. Can I call you Madam Rust? Since they say yours. Anything here? Okay. Wow. If you can make it short, we'll get more. So, like 30, I'll come to you. 30 seconds, 1 minute. Yes, please. For the cameras. Smile, you're on candid camera.
My name is Nuku. I'm a computer science major at Ashesi University. And I like to say charity starts from home. So all the information I have about leadership and citizenship is as a result of the conversations me and my parents had at the dinner table. So I feel like to create better citizens and better leaders, parents should be intentional about raising their children at the dinner table. Talk to them about problems in your community. What can I do to solve this? Oh, the grass is not green here. What can we do to solve this? This table wasn't clean last night. As a good leader, what can you do to take initiative to solve this? Because if our parents, as our first leaders, when we come to the world, don't make the initiative or are not intentional about raising us at the dinner table, I feel like when we go into the world, we will not see the importance of leadership and citizenship.
Wonderful. Put your hands together for that. I like this. Stay in that zone. One more from that area, then I come here. Those are, yeah, gentlemen. Yes, sir. For the cameras.
Hi, my name is Daryl Dufu. I'm a mechanical engineering student in the class of 2026. I think to go back to what Jessica was saying about redefining your values, a lot of the time you hear Ghanaians saying that Ghanaians are supposed to be humble, you're not feisty, you don't fight, that sort of thing. And I think that's part of where the problem stems from. I think a lot of us do not want to push back when we feel that we've been wronged as Ghanaians. It's our leaders are not taking the initiative to do what we've asked them to do as leaders, or we ourselves are not taking the initiative to do what we should do as citizens. A lot of the time, we just say that, I don't want to fight, I don't want to...
Yeah. You're almost there. Yeah.
A lot of the time, we say that we don't want to fight, we don't want to cause trouble, and that sort of thing is part of why, in my opinion, part of why we are where we are as a country.
Thank you. Let me take the last comment from this side. I'll give you my mic.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Nala Myokoboy. I'm a Management Information Systems student in the class of 2025. And what I would like to add to the conversation is the fact that I've noticed that a lot of times as citizens, we want ourselves to succeed individually. And we are not really caring about, as we said earlier, the greater good. And so one thing that I've noticed is a lot of parties, for instance, they care about, okay, if something is going to happen, is it going to happen during my time? So that in the end, they say that, oh, let's say Galamsey was solved in my time, Dumso ended in my time, we got this grant in my time. We think about the glory going to each, to just ourselves, as opposed to is Ghana going to be better in the future? If I start this project now, if I start fixing this road now, will it end in my time? I won't care about, okay, I would finish this project in my time, but I'll think about, okay, once I start it, the next person would now also be willing to continue it, because they don't just feel that, oh, I'm coming to finish what somebody else started, but I'm actually going to finish this project because Ghana needs this problem solved.
Put your hands together for now. So I'm going to move to this side, and I'll end with the middle. Now, we do have some student leaders from other universities who joined us. And so if you are from a different university and you're a student leader, if you can raise your hand. Yes, sir. If you want to make a comment, we'll give you the mic now. So introduce yourself. Any student leader from a different university. What position do you hold? Tell us about yourself, and what have you learned? What do you want to say about leadership?
So thank you very much. My name is Francis Kujo, the president for University of Ghana Business School. And I must say that I'm very happy for this particular event, most especially with the theme or the topic, simply because as a student leader, there are so many things that we experience. And I always, wherever I stand, I tell my people that in order for you to be a good citizen of the country, you shouldn't allow yourself to be the partial one, which is half one, meaning you're experiencing just the right and you're not performing your responsibility. As the leader of an association, you are a member, and therefore there are certain criteria which makes you a full member of the association. And when it comes to payment of dues, it's like tax payment when you have to, enlarge it to the citizenship wise, right? So if you are a member of the association and you are not paying your dues, how much more you being a good citizen to the country?
So it starts at that granular level.
Exactly.
And this is business school. So do business school students pay dues to the association that you're? Yes. Are they paying? And are you delivering? You're delivering. Wonderful. Thank you, UGBS. I want somebody from a different university before. So yes, not Ashesi. So any university apart from Ashesi, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm also Bernard from University of Energy and Natural Resources.
Wonderful.
UNE SLC General Secretary.
Sunyani.
Yes, please.
Wonderful. So you came from Sunyani for this?
Yes, please.
Wow.
Okay, so the issue is, the little we have, what are we actually doing? I know most of us are student leaders. Being even a course rep, what are you doing with it? I believe in school, I serve as course rep, department president to SLC General Secretary. But I always believe that the little we have, at least we could make impact. But if you are holding a portfolio, you are not doing anything, what do you expect those up there should do?
Thank you.
So that's for the leaders aspect. As citizens, what are we also doing? We are causing our leaders to do this. To even get a position on campus, we know what it entails.
No, we don't know.
Okay, sure. So in the trend, not only my campus, in the trend, for you to be a student leader, even the portfolio, you have to pay and those things. Day of election, people are requesting for money from you. And I've observed this politics trend in the sense that my school has grown enough to the extent that even when you bribe people, the students know who they're going to vote for. They want to deliver. But if you have to come to our locality, is this so? These people are not that educated. What impact are we also going to give out there? That's the whole issue. So if you are able to rise up and just bring the truth, it will be done.
No, I like this. When he said people pay, you are like, I don't know where you live, but are you telling me you don't know that people pay? What are you guys doing? No, not, but Ashesi is not the world, guys. There's a lot of, campus politics is bloody. Right? They know this. All right? So he's speaking the truth. And even with our delegate system as well, to rise to become anything, people are actually demanding money. Yeah. And I think that's another leadership question. So what do you do? As somebody offering yourself, you lose the position to make the point. Or you pay your way and say, let me win first. Because that's what we tend to see, that, well, let me win the election and I can make a change. You could make greater change by losing the election. Because I think what we've decided, we've become a society of winners who don't lead. Because winning and lead is not the same thing, right? And I think it's a very important point he's making, that if we as student leaders can't live right we can't expect the general society to live right. And sometimes losing an election is your greatest victory. Yeah. I'm not going to pay for this thing. Let me lose and let justice be done, though the heavens fall. So thank you for your contribution. Any other university from outside Ashesi before I come back? Yes, sir. Legon.
Yes, I'm Eric from University of Ghana, studying public administration.
Thank you.
It looks to me very much like Ghana does not yet have citizens.
Hey. Charlie. How
Yes. This is because I once chanced on a video on the YouTube before when former President Barack Obama was addressing a group of students graduating from a college in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And much of the things he was telling them has to do with how they should live for their country, America. And I don't see that here in Ghana. We don't have that spirit of living for our country, sacrificing for our country. We believe everything is just about the So you find someone later in the environment, you call them up and they tell you, this place is not for your father, or this is not your house.
Yeah.
Even in our hostels, someone leaves the fan on running at the top speed of 5. A few minutes later, he pulls up the blanket to cover himself, meaning he's feeling cold, but he won't turn off the fan because he knows the power is not paying for it directly. It's the school that is paying for it. This kind of mindset, you know, Americans are trained to live for their country. That is why their soldiers go to war ready to die for their country. But we don't see that here. Even our soldiers are not ready to die for our country. How much less the student? I mean, the ordinary citizen. So until that change of mindset comes, we cannot see progress. I believe in what Dr. Mami, I believe, said, that it is not mainly about the leaders, but the citizens are the ones producing the kind of leaders we have. If we are being responsible in our own little ways, we will see progress in Ghana than we are seeing now.
Put your hands together. Well, I'd like to say something. I like the open forum, it's great, but I want us to channel to, so what next? All right, so we've spent enough discussing the problem. So what I want to do with the rest of the time is to say, okay, so what are the kind of things I am doing or I can do? Or what are you doing that you want us to come and help you do? Because I hear the word collaboration, work together. All right, so I'm not trying to frame too much, but we've heard enough. So the next round of comments, tell me how you're solving either the citizenship problem, the leadership problem, the good citizen problem, and how we can support you do this. So for that, I'm coming to the middle. All right, so Jude, come to the middle here. The lady, yes, first, and then the lady in purple. Yes, you go next. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Josephine Fagiu-Dwamepo, a second-year computer science student in Ashesi.
All right.
So I want to share my perspective on the percentage of we, the youth, that usually say, no, I won't vote when it's time. I grew up in a typical home where there's extreme partisanship. Growing up, I know that this is the kind of political party that I need to vote for when I grow up, because that's what my whole household supports. So I'm like, okay, that's it. When I'm 18 years, this is who I'll vote for. In a way, practicing citizenship, because I surely go to vote. But is that good citizenship? As Patrick said, that's where scholarship come in. Coming to Ashesi, I've learned that I need to question even the person I support, even my favorite people, I need to question them. Is this what you are doing? Is this right? Will this move forward, or will this bring a positive change to my society? So I believe that scholarship gives us a framework for us to understand that we need to question every action that is being taken in our country, and we need to voice out, because we, the youth, have a greater voice to impact the change that we want to see. So I think higher education is very important in our society.
You've set your own question and you've answered it nicely. Charlie, you are wild. I like it. No, it's beautiful. I mean, wow. You are too much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah.
My name is Favor. Okay. My name is Favor, second-year student, computer science.
All right.
So we have been talking a lot about holding leaders to account. And I get worried about the weight of whatever we try to do. And I think that what can bridge that gap is proper legislature. If we say that we are going to talk to our leaders and question them, how? What mechanisms? What means? Is it just, I feel like because we have reinforced bad leadership for a long time, just speaking about it doesn't do anything. And that's why the leaders wait till we go to the extreme. Because they feel like, well, we are talking, it's not going to do anything. So I'm thinking that there should be legislature that gives us channels, proper channels to hold leaders to account.
Okay.
And as well, that legislation should require the leaders to respond to whatever we have said. So that way, accountability is easy for us to hold them accountable and for them to respond. And I think that would be...
So you're talking of an accountability mechanism.
Yes.
An accountability, in an example of a state agency, I think the accountability mechanism is there. It's a very important point to make. Thank you. Oh gosh. Okay, Kamini? Is that the name?
Kenny.
Kenny, forgive me, yes. Yes.
All right. So I think that there are about 3 solutions that come to mind.
Thank you.
The first thing is we need to make good citizenship attractive again.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, you are punished for being a good citizen.
Yes.
An example would be what happened during the Stop Galamsey protests. There are so many of my friends who were put behind bars. Some of them have lost jobs, lost scholarships, and all sorts of other things. And that cost, nobody is being held accountable for it. It's almost as if, no one sent you to go and protest, so deal with it. But unfortunately, we are silently sending that message to everyone else that you should shut up and mind your business, and hopefully no one will come for you. And that is why we are all becoming ostriches. We all look away and mind our own business and hope that no one will spot us or single us out for speaking up, because we tend to be punished for speaking up. Even if you speak up and people mind you, then you get a threat, like Bridget said, or you get punished for something, you lose out on something. So we should find a way to make citizenship attractive again. The second thing is, I think one of our big problems with nation building is that our leaders are insulated from our problems. So doomsaw, bad roads, think of whatever problem you have. Your typical leader is not directly interfacing with that problem. So it is not top of mind for him to think about how to solve it. So I honestly think that perhaps we need to find a way to rework our constitution and change the kind of privileges and opportunities that our leaders get, so that they will be incentivized to actually fix our problems, because that's something that's not happening. I think the third thing I want to talk about is our institutions. They are not working. Everybody is losing faith, confidence in them. For the last 6 months, I personally have been atting the Peace Council and the National Commission on Civic Engagement, because for the last 6 months I was expecting some sort of why it's important to vote, how to vote safely, how to respect yourself. None of that has happened, and we are less than a month to the election.
To be fair, NCC is trying, but
I haven't
not
seen
enough.
anything.
They've gone around the country. Even today, she was on City. She's doing well. Kathy is doing well. But I know what you're saying. It has to be done multiple levels. Yeah. But I think you're giving us 3 things to think about: making good citizens attractive, not insulating our leaders from the problems, and then civic education from institutions. You've introduced a very good word. We have a lot of comments from online, so I don't know if we should take a few, and then we can discuss the rest of our kinky, because everybody wants to talk, so we can discuss the rest of our lunch, right? Because I'm aiming to end at 1, and it's 12:54, right? We also have constraints. So let me read a few comments so you know we are not alone, all right? Bernard Mauli Togbe says, this is a healthy dialogue. Leadership is supposed to be nurtured through conscious effort and purposeful initiatives. Edith Okonu says, if the person who has the authority is not a leader in the true sense, then the organization or the country is in trouble. The reverse is equally dangerous. Nuni Studio Live says, this should be done in SHS schools. It will help. He's referring to this conversation. Ghana's new curriculum addresses matters related to civics education through OWOP, Our World, Our People, Social Studies and RME. How about that? Cheers, Bernard. This is from somebody called Foli. Michael Kwaku Osewusu says, this indeed is an eye-opening program. I wish I were a student at Ashesi. It's not too late. You can apply. Go to ashesi.edu.gh. You could even get a scholarship. You could cite this text. Hansen says, I'm loving this. God bless you, Bernard. God bless the panel members. Alfred Nunu says, people know what to do, but will they do it? That's the question. And then one says, we need to talk constantly about these things. It creates an environment of awareness. Let's not make these conversations background. Let's make them main conversations. If you agree with that, put your hands together for the Ashesi Citi Dialogues. Well, we're still live here at the Hive, at the Ashesi Citi Dialogues. And because I have 4 minutes, I'm going to give one panel member a minute each to tell me what next. Somebody said to me, the most important thing to know at every material point in time is what to do next. Right? So I'm going to start. Who's going to go first? Maybe let me frame it well so you can know. So we've got rights, responsibilities. We understand the two. They work together. Citizenship, leadership. They reinforce each other. Good leadership, good citizenship. Good citizenship, good leader. We've heard about me versus us. Right? It's not about me, it's the collective. We heard about now versus later. A lot of interesting ideas. We heard about institutions and the role they play. We heard about making good citizens attractive and also making our leaders feel what we feel. Lots of great ideas have been shared here. So, what's the most important thing for us to do, either as students, citizens, or leaders? Maybe Bridget, I'll start with you. Give me 1 or 2 key things we should do.
I have 1 minute, right? So
yes,
it might
please.
be more than 2. And I wrote this down yesterday. Stick by your values and principles, not your fears and your pains. When you stick by your fears and your pains, you work in hatred. So, and pursue what you want, not what you don't want. A lot of us say, I don't want this. And therefore, I'm going to vote against them. I'm going to vote against. Let's go and vote for what we want. And don't be afraid to be different or an outlier. I am different, and I'm quite proud of it. Unite. The student leaders in your schools. Stop that partisan thing and unite as students.
Yeah.
And we are all students being affected by the bad decision of politicians, one way or another. Find like-minded people like you. Use your phones.
Yeah.
Social media. Blog, vlog, whatever, cameras. Use your phones for everything else. Join or support demonstrations.
Yep.
If you can't go in person for fear that you'll be beaten or imprisoned, you can online or in cash.
Send
or in
them money
kind.
and food.
Yes, in cash or in kind. Use your voice, agency and advocacy, and your talent, like Manifest. Is Herman Suede here? Or Kofi Kinata, or all the other people. Art, music, poetry, drama. Send the message out by using that. And then support a candidate. What can you contribute? Can you contribute with social media, volunteering to campaign for them or help them, as long as they are like-minded? You know, they share in your values and your principles. Will you wear their T-shirts around? I mean, we know the ones that are commonly worn, but a different one, since you don't want you don't know who to vote for now.
All right.
Rally around him, convince other people why you support them, register to vote, get involved in local level elections, like I already said, and get your friends and family who share your views, values, and principles to infiltrate en masse.
Wow.
The big parties. We can change them too.
Thank you.
And then we have left the space for the others to fill, and they are doing what we don't like. So
let's do what we want to do. Put your hands together for Bridget. Thank you. I like this. Kojo, closing thoughts.
So I just want to build on Kenny and Favor's points, because for me, as I said, there's a limitation to citizenship, and we need to make it easier for citizenship to be activated and sustained. And I think starting from the schools, the thing we see with tertiary institutions, the institutions themselves have a lot of responsibility to really curb the partisanship that has infiltrated and really distorted the space for civic engagement, even in schools. So there has to be, they need to talk to Ashesi, because you can't do that in Ashesi. There are rules and regulations around that. And then some of the mechanisms that, for me, I've been advocating for, continue to advocate for, is that we have a national popular participation framework, which really has to be converted into a legislation that mandates every policy from any institution to have consultation processes with citizens. And, the processes for doing that will be spelled out, because it makes it easier for the agent to go out looking for the citizen to get their views, on things like that. Then Parliament. Well, every time Parliament has 4 meetings in a year, which is a session. Every time they have a meeting, they go on break. That break, then they should actually go back to their communities and have a public forum. If we do that four times in a year, then more people will get a sense of even what is going on in Parliament. So that if there's a bill that is going on in Parliament, when the break comes, you go, you consult, you get feedback, so you can feed that into the deliberations that are going on. Local government. I want us to convert the 7th January Constitution Day into a Citizenship Day.
Okay.
So that every assembly member would organize a community meeting in the assembly at local level.
Very good.
So come Citizenship Day or Citizenship Day on 7th January, which is the birth of our Constitution, we all in our little corner have a little meeting about whether sanitation issues or whatever. But it reminds us of our responsibilities as citizens and build a community. A few more points.
Yes. Good.
Also, I think we have to do a lot of work in terms of proactive disclosure of information. So the Right to Information Act was passed in 2019. It mandates all institutions to adopt a proactive disclosure principle, so that when we go on your website, every information you generate, we should be able to see it, and it's updated every year. We have to enforce those things. It makes it easier for people to access information about government. And then media. The media spaces that are also spaces for civic engagement. But it's too noisy and almost exclusive. It's too partisan, and the partisanship dominates. So it excludes everybody from having a conversation about what is important. We need to be able to sanitize that. And then lastly, 2 points. One, on the cost of engagement. So people talk about data, cost of technology and devices and so on. It has to be cheaper for you to engage online. And then we need to look at the Public Order Act and see all the kinds of constraints that make it difficult for people to even protest. Even getting bail becomes difficult, and all of these things. We need to look at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kojo. Round of applause for Kojo. Dr. Mami Mensah-Bonsu.
I will start by endorsing Kenny's second solution. We need institutional structures that, I'm a big believer in institutional structures. I don't think mindset change comes from people's hearts. It comes from incentives, institutional incentives. I remember reading a report years ago about the emolument of the president, and the president was being exempted from tax on account of being, and I found this sentence so offensive, as a guest of the state. The president is a guest, so who lives here? And until we understand that our leaders are not, I think we have to change the narrative around what a leader's entitlements are. And even the rhetoric of the national cake. I keep complaining about that because cakes are meant to be shared and eaten. They're not to be preserved and grown. So while we are thinking of our country as a cake, we're taking an exploitative position towards it. So our civic education needs to start much, much earlier. And it has to talk to us to create a sense of responsibility for the country rather than an opportunity to enrich ourselves or to get our slice of the national cake when we get a chance to be in charge of national resources. Our leaders, I teach my Leadership 2 class that you cannot solve a problem that you are not part of. Our leaders must experience the life that we have, that it might be their problem and their own vision to solve their problem, and in so doing benefit us. But when they live electricity in bill-free lives and have no idea what is happening in the market, and they take their health care from hospitals abroad, why would they care that Kolebu is on strike? So we need to make our leaders part of our society. not a different level whose job it is to enjoy the benefits of the society. And to the rest of us, principles are expensive. That's the difference between a principle and an idea. It's expensive. You stand by it when it's fun and it's easy, and you stand by it when it's not. And it means that if you don't take bribes, you don't take bribes. The fact that today you haven't paid your school fees doesn't make an exception to the principle. We're always talking about politicians being corrupt, and they buy votes from the sky.
No, from us.
They buy it from us. So in the end, the fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars,
Thank you.
but in ourselves.
Oh my God. Wow, I like this. You have the last word. Just take us home, Amma.
Okay, thank you. So I will speak more to self-leadership, which is very, very important. I think I would like to say to everyone, every African Ghanaian, especially the young people, to feel empowered to take action for every problem that they see around. Indeed, institutions need to work, and indeed, our leaders need to be held accountable. Those are all valid points, but then the extent to which we lead ourselves also towards positive change goes a long way to get all these things effected. So let's take action the little way we can. Let's use our skills and little resources, mobilize them. Every young person has a unique privilege, and in addition to that, problems that the generations ahead of us never experienced. Our generation is going to be tackled a lot of problems, climate change. So climate change and a lot of other problems that others did not encounter. So if we do not adopt the approach of doing little things differently and very well, these problems are going to accumulate and come back at us. So everyone should be good citizens, lead themselves towards positive change, and definitely be each other's keeper.
Put your hands together for Amma Assam. Wow. I'm happy I started with you and happy I ended with you, because you've sort of given me some resolution. So basically, the toughest person to lead is myself. So if I can lead myself more effectively, I become a better citizen. And in being a better citizen, I produce a better leader. So you've tied it together neatly for me. And I think the panel deserves a round of applause. And you guys have been great. I've never moderated a panel where people wanted to talk for so much. I didn't have enough time. So let's put our hands together for them. Wonderful. This has been a live production of Channel 1 Television with the team from Ashesi. It's the Ashesi City Conversations. We call it 2.0 because we've revamped it. Hopefully, it will become more regular. Coming to you from the Hive here at Brekusu. Beautiful campus. I'd like to give somebody from the university the next 2 minutes to give us closing remarks just for the TV audience. And a few things they are doing. They shared some in the documentary. So, Eben, is it... Eben, I think you should come. Eben, come. Yeah, Eben. Eben is Bachman. Bachman, he's been working his socks off to get this program done. Maybe the team that put this together can come forward as well. So please invite the team. Dr. AC Ansah. From the Ashesi side, who else from the team?
Yeah.
Abraham, please come forward, guys. Come forward, Abraham. Who else? Is the finance guy here? Because we need him on the... we want to... No, come to the front. Abraham. He will sign the checks. Okay.
By all means, please go first.
Yes, so...
Thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. So thank you to the city team. And thank you all for being here. I think I would see this as a trigger.
Yes, please.
This is something that triggers more action so that we can have more of these. So thank you.
And
also to our students from other universities. Thank you very much.
And a big thank you to the city team led by Gilbert Dada, Jude Duncan, my producer, Theophilus, and of course, the King of Accra, not forgetting our cameraman. Thank you. And whoever wins the election, Ghana must win. And of course, my director, the one and only Pearl Mensah. Put your hands together for yourselves. We'll see you next time. I hope there's lunch. Wonderful. We'll take a group photograph with some of the panel, Patrick, and then we'll be off. Thank you. So this is off air. Thank you. Let's take a photo.
So just gone by was the Ashesi Citi Dialogue from the Ashesi University, being moderated by host of the City Breakfast Show, Bernard Koku Avle. And as part of the panel was Bridget Jobenuku, Dr. Pumpuni Asante, Dr. Mame Mensah-Bonsu, and we also heard from the president of Ashesi University, Patrick Awuah. That'll be all for this particular section of the dialogue. My name is Zoe.